everyone, and welcome back to Mariana Mass Books. My name is Mariana, and today I am here with a super late June wrap-up. It's so late that I was going to say July wrap-up because we are currently in July, and that's the month that is in my mind. But no, this is a June wrap-up. Hold on a second. I wanted to see if the lighting was a bit better on this side. I think it's not. Never mind. So yes, at least I remember this time to film to the side so I could add the book images next to me. Not that there are going to be a lot of book images, mind you, because I didn't read a ton in June. But you know. So I'm going to be honest. This wrap-up is super late because I had been procrastinating filming it because I haven't been in the mood to film book videos. I have been in the mood to film tarot videos, not only because I am super into tarot lately, but also because they are, you don't have to show your face. You just film with your hands. And so in days like these, that I'm like, oh, I feel like filming a fun video because it's fun to film, but I don't, like, I'm just coming back from the doctor and I just, like, I haven't showered. Not that I shower daily anyway, because showering is a bit of a chore sometimes. For me it's so tiring, but you know, so sometimes you're like, I kind of want to film, but like, you know. And so in those cases, a tarot video is perfect because you only film with your hands or the camera pointing towards your hands. But I'm super scared to start filming tons of tarot videos and not in like throwing in some book videos in between, because I am scared that people like my booktube friends are going to be like, oh my god, she's turning into a tarot channel, I don't want to watch her channel anymore, unsubscribed, and I'm going to lose my nice booktube friends that I've made along the way, which is one of the appeals of having a channel, you know, the community, as everyone says, which sounds cliche, but it's true. And I know it's ridiculous because it's like, this is a hobby of mine. And if I feel of like filming something else, then like I should just film something else. And also I have friends in real life, you know. This is my internet life, not my real life. But this is the kind of things my brain worries about. So I thought, no, okay, so I have a couple of tarot tags behind that I want to film, that I have prepared, that I'm excited to film, but I'm like, I can't film them until I film a book video first, because the last video I uploaded was a tarot video, and so I have to film a book video so people see that I am at least filming one-on-one, and they don't unsubscribe, and I don't lose the community, and that's what's going on inside my brain at the moment. And so at the moment I'm kind of like, I don't want to film, but I do want to film. There's this great quote by a writer, I don't remember who, but I'm going to put the name in the screen, that says, I hate writing, but I love having written. And I love that quote. As a writer, I can totally relate. I hate writing, but I love having written. And so at the moment I'm feeling like I'm feeling like I hate filming, but I love having filmed. And I don't hate filming. You know what I mean? So because I'm like, oh my god, okay. So I have to like look at least presentable to film. I mean, this is my presentable, right? Like, it's not super presentable, but you know, I have to be somewhat presentable to film, and I'm like, oh my god, it's too much of a chore. But I also want to have filmed. I want to have uploaded my wrap-up. I left you hanging with my Ancientsathon TBR, and I never wrapped it up. And so I'm like, yeah, I want to have filmed. But in order to have filmed, you have to film first. So here I am filming my super late June wrap-up. If you remember, I had a ton of plans for June, and that is usual, right? One makes reading plans and then one doesn't follow them. But usually what happens is that I make a TBR for a readathon, or I make plans for, like, I don't know, group read-alongs, things like that, and then I don't follow them, but I still read a lot, just other types of books. So in a wrap-up or in a video of the sort, I would talk about all of the books that I read, even though I didn't follow my plans. In this case, I didn't follow my plans, and also I didn't read a lot. So, you know, that's what's going to happen in this video. So last month was Ancientsathon, which was a readathon I was super excited for. I'm still excited about it. I'm happy with my reading, like, don't get me wrong. I just didn't read all of the things that I thought I was going to read. So I'm going to link my TBR somewhere so you can see what were my reading plans for the readathon. There was also a Monte Cristo read-along going on, the Count of Monte Cristo, that I was planning on participating. LOL. And what else was I going? Yeah, basically those were my plans for June. And so what happened is this. I started the group read for Ancientsathon, which is the Book of the City of Ladies by Christin de Pizan, I think. And I was loving it. I was tweeting about it. Like, I was into it, you know? And then slump. The slump happened. Life, slump, things, stress, anxiety. And so I didn't finish the book. I didn't DNF it, because for me, DNFing means that you actively say, I am not going to finish this book. I didn't like it, or I was bored, or I'm not interested, or it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Something of the sort that makes you say, no, this book is not for me, I am not going to finish it. In this case, that's not what happened. I didn't finish it because life, but I didn't DNF it, meaning I would maybe still finish it someday. I don't know. Just not currently, because the month went along and I didn't finish it, and you know how it goes. So I was loving it. From what I read, I think I can say I recommend it. You know, I didn't finish it, so who knows how it goes in the end. But if you want to check out my Twitter, I have like one or two quotes from the book, because it's so funny. So basically it is a medieval feminist text, to put it in like a few words. And it's so funny. She is so sarcastic. Her sense of humor is, yeah. So recommended, didn't finish it. Maybe someday I will. Then I also said I was going to read the Gospel of Luke, I think. And because I'm very interested in Mary right now, and I'm kind of like working with her. Luke's gospel is the only gospel that goes into Mary's life and talks about Mary, according to my dad, who knows a lot about the Bible. So, and according to a book I'm reading, which is called The Silence of Mary, that I still haven't finished, but I'm currently reading, they talk about the Gospel of Luke. So I was curious, and I had never read a gospel like beginning to end as a book. I was also super interested. I was reading the gospel and like all of the notes that are in the bottom, and I was so interested. It was so revealing, and you know, I'm not going to go deep into why, because it's more of a spiritual thing than a book thing, and it's even like related to tarot. There's this part where it clicked to me. So if anyone out there is like a tarot practitioner or whatever, I struggled with the magician card, and this reading was like, oh, it clicked. So I was loving it. I was super into it. I was like, oh my god, yes. And then slump, slump, life, stress, anxiety, and so I didn't finish it. That one I'm more keen to finish sooner. Like the one that by Christin the Pizan is on my Kindle, and maybe I will finish it someday, but it's not a priority. This one is more of a priority for me because of the spiritual work that I'm currently doing, and so I would like to finish it maybe slowly during this month, or I didn't DNF it. It's weird to say. Like, I didn't DNF the gospel. Like, it's weird to say. As a Catholic, it's a weird thing to say. But, I didn't DNF it. I just didn't finish it. But I was loving it, and it was super interesting. And it was interesting, like, from a historical perspective, from, like, a spiritual perspective, from, like, a literature perspective, like, from all the perspectives. Then I was going to read a Mexican history book, or not Mexican, but Mesoamerican history that I was super excited for, and I'm still super excited for. I just didn't start it because slump, life, anxiety, stress. I wasn't in the mood for non-fiction. So yes, I didn't, and I don't want to read it. I hope I get to read it this year. But I didn't read it. So moving on. The one that I did read and I did finish and I did love, and so let's talk about it, is Beowulf. So I read Beowulf. I read the Seamus Heaney translation per recommendation of David Wiley. And I'm glad I read that one. I really liked it. I don't know how the other translations are, but this one I really liked. And just as a context, I knew about Beowulf. I knew it's an important text. I knew it's one of the influences of Tolkien and of a lot of not just Tolkien, just in general. It's a big influence in literature, in the type of literature that I enjoy. But I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know the ending. I didn't know anything. I know it's like a known text, but it's not a known text in Mexico or Latin America. It's like I don't think most people have heard of Beowulf. I don't think my mom had heard of Beowulf when I told her about it. Maybe like the Angelina Jolie movie. I think there's a movie, right, with Angelina Jolie. But other than that, like Latin America, it's not like a main text, So I didn't know anything about it, and that really helped in the reading experience, or not helped, but that really added to my experience because it was fun because I hadn't read anything. It is an epic poem, so it's not like regular prose or like a regular modern story, but I happen to love that. When I was reading this book, I was like, oh my god, I love medieval literature. Why don't I just read medieval literature like exclusively? I really love it. And something funny that happened was that, so a little bit of context, kind of context. So as I said, Beowulf is not like a seminal text, is that the word in English, in Latin America, but one of like the texts that if you go to school in Mexico, in Latin America, in Spain, in Spanish speaking countries, you will read Don Quixote. Not in its entirety, unless you go to like a literature university, but in high school you read fragments. You at least learn about it if you don't read it. And so I always associate Don Quixote with school and with some of the most boring classes in my high school life. And so I always said, like, that's a book I'm never going to read. Don Quixote. I'm not interested. I don't care if it's a classic. Like, no, it's not for me. Not even going to open that book. Yes, I'm reading Beowulf and I'm thinking I should only read medieval literature about knights in my life. And so I'm like, wait, do I have to read Don Quixote? Because, I mean, medieval literature about knights, and I know it's a satire, but still, it's about knights, like that type of knights, lords, ladies, type of medieval literature that I love. And so I was like, wait a minute, I think I have to add Don Quixote to my TBR. Like, not right away, not at the moment, because slump, life, stress, anxiety, but I think I do have to add it. It's no longer a book that I'm like, I'm never going to read it. So that happened. Another interesting thing while I was reading Beowulf is that so it's divided in 3 parts. The third part is the story of Beowulf and the dragon. Not going to say more because maybe there is someone like me who doesn't know what the story is about. And that was my favorite part. The third part with the dragon, that was my favorite part of Beowulf. I really, really enjoyed that part much more than the first 2 because I enjoyed it not only in terms of the writing but in terms of the story. Like, I actually got engaged in the story, which is not easy in an epic poem in a language that is not your first language. You can appreciate it, but you don't necessarily get engaged in the story. And in the third part, I did. I felt like I was engaged, and I was emotionally engaged. And I think that happened because in the third part, I tried this thing where I would picture in my mind what the poem was describing. And I thought that was such an interesting thing, like a question to wonder, because when I read certain books, I do picture, but I don't really picture as a movie, right? Like, flashes of pictures go into my mind, but I don't really, not even like a romance that is a lot of times written to be read as a movie. Or books like that, not even those types of books do I picture in their entirety, like the scene going on in my head. And I was curious, like, I don't know, I thought it's a curious question, like, do you picture the scenes in your head when you read? Because I don't. I picture flashes of images go through my mind, and I sort of like piece together the story, but I don't picture full scenes. And especially not in poetry, I don't think. The first 2 parts I was reading, I was understanding, but I wasn't picturing scenes in my mind. And the third part, I don't know why I started doing this. It's an epic medieval poetry, written in a language that is not my first language. So even though I understand it's not super easy. So I tried that to help me with the understanding of the story. I was like, oh, I'm going to picture what is going on, what's being described, because that way I can understand it better. And by picturing the scenes of what was describing in the poem, I got really into it and I got really engaged, and I thought it was very interesting, and I thought I'm going to try to do it more often, where I picture the scenes of what's going on I picture in my mind the scenes of what's going on in the book. So that is Beowulf. And finally I read The Hobbit. Yes, The Hobbit. And that was a super fun experience because I read it for a workshop I was taking, which is a workshop on The Hobbit. There is this tarot tuber called Kelly at The Truth in Story, that's her channel name, and she does these workshops called Tales from the Woods that are essentially like a mixture of book club / creative writing or like literature type things slash tarot, which was like, I love the internet. I love that those types of things exist in the internet. And so when I found out about those workshops, I was like, okay, the next one she opens up, I'm enrolling, because I'm in books slash tarot and fantasy books because she's a fantasy reader. I was like, that sounds just perfect for me. And she announced her workshop for this summer, and it was The Hobbit, and I was like, this is such perfect thing for me. My story with The Hobbit. So as you know, The Lord of the Rings, I say as you know, because I've talked about it before in videos, but maybe you haven't seen videos where I've talked about The Lord of the Rings. But if you know, I read The Lord of the Rings for the first time when I was 12, said it was my favorite book, fell in love with it, has been my favorite book ever since, but I had never reread it until last year, where I body read the books with Elle from Elle Thinks, and I reread it for the first time as an adult, and I became obsessed. You know this. I became obsessed. I am like obsessed with Tolkien. I have read other things, his biography, his essays, other things. Just obsessed. When I read for the first time, I became obsessed as a kid, but now I'm obsessed as an adult. Anyway, so that's my story with The Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit, I started reading after I read The Lord of the Rings when I was 12, 13. And I DNF'd it. At that time I didn't know what DNFing was. Hold on a sec, the doorbell. Okay, I'm back. When I first read The Hobbit, after I read The Lord of the Rings, I was around 13 maybe, and I DNF'd it because at that age, at 13, you feel that you are too good for middle grade or like children's books, or that you feel like you are old now. You are too old for that type of story. And you have to keep in mind, I had just read The Lord of the Rings, which is this huge, epic story that feels very adult and ancient and mythological. And then I go from that to reading The Hobbit, which is super good, as I now know, but it is essentially a children's adventure story. At 13 I was like, no, I don't like this. I was still a fan of Tolkien and The Lord of the Rings, and I think I kept it to myself. I never said that I didn't finish the Hobbit because I was like, oh no, I'm not a real fan. But that's what happened. And so after I reread The Lord of the Rings last year, I was like, oh, I want to read The Hobbit because I think I would have a different perspective now. But I hadn't read it. And so when I saw that the workshop this year was going to be for The Hobbit, I was like, yes! So I enrolled immediately. I stalked Kelly until to figure out when the enrollments were going to be open. I was super intense about it. I wrote to her and I enrolled, and I'm so happy I did, because the class was super fun and we did projects, and I did this writing sort of mini essay, personal essay type project based on The Hobbit, and it was super fun and I loved the book. So it's Tolkien. You don't need me to tell you that the writing is perfect, that Tolkien is the best writer in history and in the world, period. I'm not taking questions. So he's the best at description. I did tweet a lot of quotes about it. He does great imagery, he does great description, but also I was super surprised about how in love I was with Bilbo, because I mean, from the Lord of the Rings. He's not my favorite character. He's very little in the Lord of the Rings. But he's so charming and smart, and he's such a great hero. And so I now have a completely different appreciation for both Bilbo and Frodo, after having read The Hobbit. And that was really great for me. Gollum also, I mean, Gollum is in the Lord of the Rings, but I don't know why, but here in The Hobbit was so, I don't know, I was just really blown away by Tolkien, by his imagination, by his inventiveness, and just the whole scene of riddles in the dark with Bilbo and Gollum. I'm not going to explain. I'm just assuming that, people who know. And that whole part, because in the Lord of the Rings he had already invented Gollum, but this is like the first time he wrote Gollum as a character, and he's fascinating. And I was really amazed by his inventiveness and his creativity and his imagination. And I mean, Weaving new, but I was once again amazed. And having read it put me again in the Tolkien mood, and now I'm like, okay, now I really want to read the Silmarillion before the show on Amazon Prime. And I did want to do it, and I did want to do it even before, and I think I mentioned it in, I don't know, my mid-year freakout somewhere. And I mentioned it after I read The Lord of the Rings last year, but after I read The Hobbit, I'm like, yes. Oh, I also started the audiobook for The Fellowship of the Ring by Andy Serkis. I really wanted to listen to those audiobooks. I started that one in June, but I'm currently doing a body read of The Assassin's Apprentice by Robbin Hobb, and I'm mixing ebook and audiobook, and so I currently paused The Fellowship of the Ring. So yes, that is my very late June wrap up. As always, I don't want to film, and I think I'm going to film an 8-minute video because I don't want to talk, and then what is it, like half an hour after, or more than half an hour? I think I've been talking for like 45 minutes. So I think I can stop now. I'm not going to mention any reading plans because life, stress, anxiety, blah, blah, all of the things that you know, so we'll see where the wind takes me. And I will be uploading many tarot videos. Please, pretty please, I'm begging you on my knees, please don't unsubscribe. Please, booktube friends, I don't want to lose you. Please. I'm just going through a moment in my life where I prefer to film hand videos rather than face videos. I do want to film a tag that was created by Heather at Soggy Expat Book Nerd and Sean at Sean the Book Maniac. Tag I saw on Susan at Reed's channel. I do want to film that one because it's super fun and super, like, one of those random questions tags that is fun to film. But yeah, I'm going to end this video now because it's just like randomness to the max. I hope you're having a great time, month, week, whatever, and I will see you again on another video. Probably the next one will be tarot, but then I will probably film the Heather and Sean's tag, and then who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, I will see you soonish, and in the meantime I wish you happy reading.